Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. College football playoff rankings came out yesterday. 1 and 2 unchanged. Oregon number 1, Ohio State number 2, Texas moving up to 3 after Georgia's loss to Ole Miss over the weekend. The Tennessee Vols remain at the number 7 spot with both Indiana and BYU leapfrogging the Vols as Tennessee gets ready to go to Georgia on Saturday. Josh Heupel met with the media on the SEC teleconference this week. Had no update for quarterback Nico Iamaleava, who is reportedly working through a concussion. Heupel pointed to the availability report that will come out tonight across the SEC. Titans back on the practice field today in preparation for the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday. Brian Callahan with no injury updates at his Wednesday press conference. And around the NFL, the Colts are bringing back Anthony Richardson to start after Joe Flacco started back-to-back games. Colts taking on the New York Jets this Sunday. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Stores. 615-737-1045 if you want to join in on the conversation. Of course, we have the F&M Bank chat on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. And Blaine, the college football playoff bracket is out. We're going to talk a little bit about what Brian Callahan said. We're going to talk a little bit about some Sam Darnold predictions made by Jeremy Fowler and the relation of that to the Tennessee Titans. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. We're going to go around the NFL with Jordan Dajani in the second hour. But first, we haven't really talked a lot of college football. Last 2 days have been dominated by the Tennessee Titans. So I just want to touch base real quick. University of Tennessee beats up on Mississippi State, even though Nico goes out with a concussion. Right now, I saw that Brent Doherty said he's expected to play, is what he has heard on his end. But right now, expect that he'll pop up as questionable on the injury report because he has practiced the last 2 days, but this is a new college injury reporting system that doesn't really matter in the big scheme of things, apparently, because you could just show up to practice and then they can say that you were at practicing. So we don't really know we don't really know if he is practicing. If you're taking Josh Heupel at his word, he's apparently practicing, but we don't know what that means. There is no follow-up questions. It's like Fort Knox when it comes to college football practices. Nobody knows really what's going on in these practices. And the rules are a little loose in the injury reporting system of the SEC now. So we don't really know where he's at. But Brent Doherty of 3HL, he said, hey, he is expected to play. That was the messaging coming out of the game. Basically, they did what they needed to do. They took care of business against Mississippi State. Now it's on to Georgia. And obviously, Nico is a big storyline, and importance to go up against Georgia and is needed, especially when you're talking about college football playoffs, you're talking about rankings, because Georgia needs this game just as badly as the University of Tennessee.
Oh, man, this is going to be an excellent one there in Athens. I'm actually super excited for this game because there's a lot at stake. Actually, this to me, you tell me, this is an actual playoff game.
Feels like it.
This can determine if you're in, probably if you're Georgia, for sure. Because
it's like
if they lose, there's a 3-loss
elimination game, but it's pretty much as close as you can get to an elimination game without being in an elimination game.
Georgia loses. What happened? They 3 losses.
They still got to close out the year, and then you see what happens. Then you got to see what other teams do because the college football is just so crazy right now. You would think that a 3-loss SEC team, would essentially not get in, but I mean,
before the season, if I said a 3-loss team, SEC team's gonna get in, you would have said what?
Would have said no. Right. What about you, Sammy?
Oh, man, this thing doesn't work.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else heard Sammy, but I definitely did not hear Sammy.
My mic does not work. Just like
your mic's working. So
got it now.
Okay, there you
go. Georgia right now, they're not even getting into the playoffs. So if they lose to Tennessee, I mean, they're really not getting in.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that for sure. That their chances of not getting in are sky high. But you just never know with the rest of this situation and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I would think it would be safe to say, at least for Georgia, but on the terms of Tennessee, just because you lose Georgia doesn't mean you're out of the college football playoffs. And by the end of the year, you may be out in the next rankings, but you're not going to be out by the end of the year. Maybe.
I think it's also how it looks.
Yeah.
Whether if you lose and it's a close one, I think that actually matters here because it's going to get nip and tuck here at the end, because if all of a sudden yours truly, Alabama, still runs the table and them and Tennessee are both at 2 losses, then who gets in?
Exactly.
Oh, I would dare I say head-to-head Tennessee won, but I still feel like Alabama would get in over them. For whatever reason. You know why? Because they beat Georgia.
Well, yeah, I mean, Alabama did too. So it's like,
it's going to be interesting. Like I said before, SEC cannibalizing itself, or is that actually helping them get more in? It's still based off what everybody else does, of course.
I mean, I guess it's not helping, right? Okay, so let's look at it this way. Georgia, I hate this new ranking system, by the way.
Oh, no.
Because Boise State is leading their conference. They get in at 12. And Georgia's is the first team out of the playoffs, but Georgia's technically ranked 12th.
First of all, should we just get rid of AP ranking?
That's where I'm at,
That's
right? I mean, isn't that kind of where you just have to get rid of it?
Okay. Yeah, Sammy says yes, so that's what we do.
Yeah. So I'm looking at it here. So just to go through it real quick. Obviously, Oregon number 1, Texas number 2, BYU number 3, Miami number 4, and those are your bye week teams. They're all their conference leaders, which Miami is borderline fraud team. And I would almost put Texas up there as a fraud team because Texas, you look at Texas's resume, it's a very pitiful resume right now. It's very pitiful. Then you go to Ohio State versus Boise State, 5-12 matchup. Your 8-9 matchup is Tennessee versus Notre Dame. Your 6-11 is Penn State, Ole Miss, and then Indiana versus Alabama at 7-10. It's going to be really interesting just to see how all this changes because we still have the SEC championship game, a Big Ten championship game, and all this kind of stuff. To me, there's a lot of good talking points through it, but it may not necessarily. It's going to change so much from here to the end of the season that's almost like we can't. Can you really get mad or can you really get upset or call any of these teams undeserving? Because they're deserving right now doesn't mean that they are deserving later on down the road. Yeah. So it's just going to be interesting to see how this fluctuates throughout the week. But, I think what you kind of saw is BYU and Indiana jump Tennessee in the other rankings. And really, I think that's more of how sometimes you kind of feel in a game, the refs make a bad call early and then they make a call on the other team that's also bad and it kind of feels like a makeup call. I don't think that's a real thing, but it kind of feels like that way.
Well, yeah, it does feel that way.
Yeah, it feels like a makeup call.
I feel like it.
That's what it feels like for BYU and Indiana. It's kind of like, well, they got it wrong last week. We're getting it right this week, and because we got it wrong this week, our explanation last week, our explanation this week is going to be kind of weak, and it's just like. I think they just kind of screwed up on the first rankings last week, and it's kind of feels like that. It's like a makeup call.
Have you looked at IU's? I know they have won, and I'm going to give, I'm a Hoosier myself. But, I mean, they have the biggest team they play, I think, is Michigan.
Do you see the clip of Buck getting reamed by Austin Stanley? Austin called in, of A to Z Sports, called in because Buck said that they waxed. He said this twice. That Indiana waxed Michigan, and they barely beat Michigan.
He probably didn't even know what.
He probably didn't even watch the game. he probably watched enough just to torment, Taylor Lewan or something.
So I'm hoping that IU shows well, so then where this ranking is where they're at, they don't fall too much. Because if they get smoked, because it's at Ohio State,
yeah,
people are going to be like, See, I told you this is IU shouldn't be ranked this high. So hopefully they show well. I still think Ohio State will win that game. But BYU, if I had to play BYU versus, Sam, you address this as well, in all the teams that are ranked to go to the playoffs, do you think they would be favored against any of the SEC teams right now to play them? And I
neutral
don't
site.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I think that helps. I mean,
yeah, it does. But okay, do you still think they'll be favored in any point? So let's start with Ole Miss and then go up.
Yeah.
To Tennessee, whoever. I mean, I just don't.
I think they'd be favored against Miami.
No, I'm just talking about SEC schools.
Okay, well, no. I mean, but that may be my SEC bias, but
Oh, yeah, because that's. I'm just trying to figure.
Just gotta be a little honest.
We're talking about where they ranked BYU in Indiana, and I'm like, I don't think they would be favored in any of those games against any of the SEC teams that are in playoff contention.
Absolutely not. I really don't think they would either. And their reasoning for ranking them ahead of Tennessee was because of how they wanted the teams they won against. But if you look at BYU beating Utah 4-5, Michigan 5-5, that's not good wins. Where Tennessee beat Mississippi State mainly with the backup quarterback and by 19 points. I mean, it's complete. I was really disappointed with their reasoning for why they ranked them above.
If they would have ranked them above last week, we wouldn't be having this conversation. They probably should have ranked them above last week's Indiana and BYU because they are both undefeated and they're both in contention to win their conferences and all this kind of stuff. And Tennessee, I guess, is still in the conversation to get to the SEC championship, but it's a much muddier path for them. The team I'm most interested in to watch over these next few weeks and see what they can do in their conference championship is Colorado. I am glued in on some Colorado football to see what they can do if they can make it to the Big 12 championship and see if they can get into the playoffs. So I think that would be that's a sign that that program is headed in the right direction. That would just be such a big big story, not weird, but big story if they were able to sneak in and get in because they won the Big 12 championship.
So who they have, Kansas or Kansas State?
Kansas, Oklahoma State, and someone else. I can't remember
because third. BYU's. No, who's?
I know it's not BYU, but they have a third team.
No, I'm talking about who are they in contention with?
BYU,
right? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So then you look at their schedule and say, okay, because they have to falter. Do they have a championship in the Big 12?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so
I think so.
They have a shot, but
they have Utah, Kansas,
I think they're going to come up a little short.
Yeah, Utah was the other one. They have Utah, Kansas, Oklahoma State.
Yep.
So that would be a good test to see not only what that team can do as a whole, but what Shadur Sanders can do, and that may be pertinent for Tennessee Titans fans to start catching up and watching some Colorado games.
Well, why would that be pertinent?
Yeah, just saying they have a quarterback currently 31st in QBR, and we'll be talking more about that later. We're going to talk about a little bit about what Brian Callahan had to say. We're going to talk a little bit more about the University of Tennessee and what we saw in their game Mississippi State and also Alabama as well, because I am an Alabama fan, so I'm going to at least get 3 minutes of Alabama football talk in on that show.
We don't do not
at
do
least
that
3. But this has been Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, Tennessee, fall is in full swing, and Cool Ray's here to make sure your home is ready for all the fun and the fall season. And we've got some sizzling deals that will keep you comfortable and worry-free all season long. So ensure your family stays hydrated and healthy with free water quality testing, because nothing beats a refreshing drink of pure water on a nice fall day. And Cool Ray also offers a $149 main sewer line camera inspection. And right now, they also offer 15% off whole home dehumidifiers, as well as $500 off whole home generators. So let Cool Ray take care of your home so you can focus on making memories. So call us today at 615-709-8699 and take advantage of these scorching hot deals. That's Cool Ray, your trusted partner for a cool and comfortable Tennessee fall. So visit coolray.com. That's coolray.com.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door, 615-737-1045. If you want to get on the conversation, of course, we have the Zone TV, F&M Bank Chat, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. Blaine, University of Tennessee looked really good against Mississippi State, and that's what we asked for, right? We asked, hey, you need to go in and win against Mississippi State. They're the worst team. Don't play with your food. They win by 19 points with a backup quarterback.
Did they look really good?
I mean, I think they did.
Well.
I mean, I don't think they looked bad.
Oh, no. They didn't look bad. But I just felt like Mississippi State hung in there longer than I expected, and they gave them a battle. I get it. You're talking about the backup quarterback, but they were hanging with them even in the first half before Nico went out. So I felt like Mississippi State rose and played up to the level that they needed to compete with them. It wasn't until, to me, halfway to maybe the beginning of the fourth quarter where you felt like, okay, now the game is under control and everything else. Sammy, you being a UT person, what did you think of their play?
No, I mentioned it last week whenever we were talking about this game that it was key for Tennessee to get off to a quick start, but I thought this was going to have a lot more emotions in it than people realized just because of the two head coaches. Right. And so I think that the play calling early on in the game, I just think there's further depths to this one and why they probably got off to a slower start than what people are really looking into.
I mean, I won't push back on the slow start because we're talking about a team that was 20-7 going into halftime. They were up. They scored 7 touchdown in the first quarter, held Mississippi State to 0. Then they go 13-7 in the second quarter. So they ended up going 20-7. I mean, for a team that has notoriously started out way worse in the first half, I thought they showed improvement. Now, again, it is Mississippi State, so maybe you would like to see an extra touchdown in there.
Comparing it to.
But I'm kind of comparing it to the Tennessee Volunteers' first half of games prior.
Well, you have to always look at the opponent. The New England Patriots. Tell me. So
but it didn't matter who the opponent was. They were starting really poorly in the first half, and now this is a team that was trending in the right direction to maybe go all the way. Like if Nico probably played the whole game, we're probably talking about an even bigger blowout, in my opinion.
Well, I don't know. It was 20-7 there at half. What you're looking at is the Mississippi State's defense was atrocious. And to me, with their high-powered offense, I felt like they should have been in more dominant control in this game.
But I don't know if they are a high-powered offense.
Well, I know. That's what I'm getting at.
That's the real question about this Tennessee team.
See, and that's what it showed us here. What week are we in now in college football?
We're heading into week 11, if I'm not mistaken.
You are who you are at this point.
Yep.
And the offense, for whatever reason, can't get over the snide. They played, I don't know, if they ranked 100-something in defense.
Yeah.
I mean, they're supposed to, I know the team got some good players and all, and they played up to the level they needed to, but I just didn't feel that comfy feeling I wanted to feel at this point, especially off of Nico coming off his best game by far. Sammy?
I think also whenever you're looking at this and why they weren't able to do things offensively, Coach Levy has known this offense. He knows exactly what Coach Heupel wants to do offensively, and if he can make Tennessee one-dimensional, which I wouldn't say they were one-dimensional, but if he's able to limit what they're doing, then that's a win for Mississippi State. And if you look at the Mississippi State-Georgia game, I mean, it's not like Mississippi State hasn't been able to play
they hung
teams.
with them. Mm-hmm.
So I just think that what Coach Levy was able to hone in on, I think that was major key because he knows exactly what Coach Heupel wants to run.
Yeah. And they did a little no huddle, so you could see the similarities in the offenses. I felt like they had turned a corner, and then I wanted them to put that thing in overdrive, downshift, and just
I think we
boom.
would have
And that's
seen
what
that.
I was expecting. And I just felt, oh, okay, they look a little better.
I look at it this way. I think we would have seen that, but it still is always going to have the slow start. So let me say this. I think that you're trying to start a old truck when it's 20 degrees outside, and it takes a little bit for it to start getting going. And because if you look at Nico's stats for the limited time he played, he was 8 for 13, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 13.4 yards per attempt. So I would think, now this is obviously a projection. He had 2 big-time throws. I would think that would have continued into the second half if he had been there. But this team, and it is kind of what we have talked about all year with this team, these slow starts. And when you get in the playoffs against better teams, these slow starts won't really work unless you're playing a team that's also known for a slow start, like an Alabama. Now, on the flip side, here's my 3 minutes or however many on Alabama. Alabama looked magnificent and put out some of the best quarterback run design plays I've ever seen out there. And they dominated an overrated Brian Kelly-led LSU team with an overrated head coach, an overrated quarterback, but on the road in primetime in Death Valley, and that matters. Now, Alabama's big thing is to keep that momentum going. But my question is, Blaine, or the question I have about this Alabama team is the same question I have about this University of Tennessee team, is that these slow starts are bad, but these quarterbacks, I guess you get the added bonus of Jalen Milroe being a runner. I'm just not sold on either of these quarterbacks as college football playoff caliber or college football championship caliber quarterbacks right now.
Quarterbacking. Athletes, yes.
Yes, athletes, yes. But and Nico will get there, I think. But at this point, it's hard for me to trust either of these teams' offenses and either of these teams' quarterbacks when it comes time to the college football playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's what it is for me. I just don't trust them that they can, because that's all they need is for them to turn that corner. And I feel like they have a great shot of winning the championship, or at least making it there. I mean, man, their defense has shown who they are pretty consistently. Yeah, do they give up plays here and there? Yes, but that's defense. I mean, they get after it and they play hard, and they're one of the elite defenses in the NCAA. I want to start seeing that. We can no longer, I'm going to say this, hold hand of Nico. Yeah. He has to let it go. And they have to perform for him too, by the way. So I just thought it was okay. And I just, all this secrecy on the quarterback and this injury here, to me, is I don't feel like it really needs to be all of that. I feel like you're making it a little bit worse at the same time. Just say, hey, he's under concussion protocol. We'll see what happens. And then that's all you have to say.
What about you, Sammy?
Yeah, no, I think that whenever you're talking about Coach Heupel and the secrecy of injuries, I think
we got HIPAA involved, but but you do have now an injury report.
Yeah. So which apparently is like the most worthless thing. So they have to address it in certain.
I mean, it's almost nowhere around it. I mean, these guys are getting paid now, so I don't even know how much the HIPAA law even implies here these days with the injury report.
But he's big on protecting his guys. That's what I was going to say. He's going to protect his guys till the end of the day. That's really all it is on that. And sometimes you're right, Blaine. Sometimes it can hurt more than helping to protect them. Maybe it's not as much as what it's seeming like because he's protecting them so much.
Yeah, both these teams are just so similar in a way, but the quarterback issues are different as well. And it's just because you were asking, looking at the off air, looking at the bracket, what do you think it kind of shakes out as? I was kind of like, okay, well, we're looking at the bracket. I think Alabama beats Indiana. I think Ole Miss, makes it, and then I think Alabama loses to Texas, and Ole Miss beats BYU, and then it's, I think Texas gets there, but I'm not really sold on any of these SEC teams being able to compete with Oregon right now. Oregon just looks, they look really great. I don't know how many people are I don't know what Dylan Gabriel's going to do at the next level. I really have no clue right now in my assessment of him, but right now nobody's playing quarterback better than Dylan Gabriel. And, I
haven't watched him besides highlights, so I have
he's
no
been
idea.
really good. So, I kind of feel like it's Oregon's tournament to lose, their championship to lose.
Yeah, you watched him, Sammy?
Yeah, I was with him at UCF whenever I was senior producer at UCF. He was a freshman, sophomore. And so Coach Heupel and Coach Levy also very familiar with him. And so whenever he transferred, he was going through a lot whenever he was leaving UCF. And that was really the start of NIL and the stuff he's had to overcome and be able to get on the other side and play at such a high elite level. I think it really speaks to the maturity of him on and off the field, which is why I think he's able to get so much done on the field because of how he just is able to handle himself in a lot of situations.
Did he transfer to another school first and then now he's there?
Oklahoma.
So he played at Oklahoma. He did well there
at
too.
Oklahoma.
Oh, well, that's probably why he left there.
Yeah. It's just it's interesting just to see. I think we'll have more answers about Tennessee after they play Georgia. I think that will tell us a lot. What we know what is real, but can they change the narrative right now? Can they change who they are? Can they change the DNA? And I don't know what that answer is quite yet, but we'll see if they can. And sometimes being able to do it, seeing is believing. Right? Or doing is believing, I guess, in their point. And if they can get that momentum, go into Athens and beat a down Georgia team who is highly motivated and highly pissed off right now that they got embarrassed last week against Ole Miss. This is, I think the worst thing to happen was Ole Miss beating Georgia for Tennessee. Because Ole Miss now is another 2-loss team that beat Georgia, which is a team that could possibly beat you. And Georgia is going to come in pissed because they lost that game.
At home, too.
At home.
With a home cooking. And let's not forget, didn't Kentucky beat Ole Miss? Ole Miss?
Yeah.
I remember watching that game. I was like, whoa. I was kind of stunned.
It kind of took a while for this Ole Miss transfer portal thing to click, this experiment they've been doing, and it's starting to click. And I think they're starting to see the benefits. I think right now, if I had to play the most dangerous team in the college football playoffs would probably be Ole Miss right now. Because let me say something.
I know the Tennessee fans were all scared of Ole Miss before the season started.
I don't want to get into the whole, draft discussion. But Jackson Dart is a guy to keep an eye on in this quarterback class. He's got some really good. He's got some really good. I'm not saying first round.
Oh, okay.
So maybe if you were to get a Travis Hunter, then get Jackson Dart, in the third or the fourth. Good competition.
Oh, so you're saying the Titans would take Hunter and then?
Well, we'll see. We'll see where we're at.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just saying you could have worse drafts if you were to have Travis Hunter and Jackson Dart.
Well, in between that, I want a pass rusher. So
pass rusher or a tackle. Just real quick, I need to tell you guys about the Titans football feast coming up.
Oh, they do.
Join 3HL this Thursday as we broadcast live from Buffalo Wild Wings in Mount Juliet for the next Titans football feast. Stop by for chances to win Titans tickets and giveaways each hour thanks to Miller Lite, Kroger, and Buffalo Wild Wings. Plus, be a part of our weekly Miller Lite Wash Away Toast with Ron Slay at 5 p.m. For more info, visit 1045thezone.com/TFF. But yeah, Ole Miss is a team that I would not want to see in the college football playoffs currently. Maybe they'll put out some clunkers and you won't even have to worry about that. But right now, that's a team out of all the teams,
They're dangerous.
besides like Oregon, out of all the teams, that's the team I don't want to see because they've captured that momentum. All those new pieces are clicking.
That's called chemistry.
That is called chemistry. The chemistry is being built. Lane Kiffin is I consider himself a very good college football coach.
Yeah.
I know that he's left a sour taste in a bunch of UT's mouths.
Oh, no, not Tennessee. They love them.
To me, I look at it as like that team is hitting the stride at the right time. And we've seen the New York, like, compared to the NFL, we've seen the New York Giants go into the playoffs at the right time and win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and that is a team that I would be scared of.
Yeah, they definitely have peaked. It's just they got off a little slow too there, especially with that loss to Kentucky, which is surprising there. But now they seem like they're hitting a stride. I think Lane kind of challenged them in a different way, and I think they took heed to it. And naturally, I think different pieces here with the portal, and we may see this a lot, especially from the high tier teams when you start, how all the pieces to the puzzle work really hand in hand and start, going into overdrive and then working as a second thought as an athlete instead of out there thinking about what you're supposed to be doing instead of just reacting. So that's what I'm talking about in chemistry. So right now, I thought, all the Tennessee fans were a little nervous with all the TPers that were going to Ole Miss and thought, Ole Miss is going to be the team to beat. And they were ranked preseason ahead of Tennessee, and they thought, oh, man, this team is going to really be good. Well, they are now showing that to a T. I can't wait to see what happens with this final playoff ranking and see what really happens, because I think when I watch and then I see the AP, which I'm not really paying attention to, I think we need to get to 14 or 16 really quick, to be honest. And then just to make it, because when I start looking at it, I'm going, because now you're forcing teams to be in it. And look, I'm a Ball State guy. I want, second tier teams to get in there too. But I'm going, but how can you leave a 2-loss or 3-loss SEC or Big Ten team out who is justified to be in there as well?
It's very much like the Boise State situation, right?
It's
because
like
do we really think that Boise State is the better team compared to Georgia? I don't.
No.
And we have seen those teams sneak in even in the 4-team playoff system. We've seen the team sneak in the BCS like that everybody's like, oh, this team's really going to make it in and really do something. I mean, maybe Notre Dame's not as bad as Boise State, but I always like to poke fun at Notre Dame because Brian Kelly coached them. They've continued to be one of the most overrated teams in the team when he coached, and they still are. But I look at it and I go, is Boise State really going to make noise, or is that going to be shades of the old college football playoffs system where they get in, they get beat by 40 points? Like, that's what it feels like to me. Then what good is that? I mean, it's great exposure, quotation marks. It's, I guess, because you made it in, and I guess you can say, hey, we were one of the first teams to make it in the college football playoffs. But if you get shellacked by 40 points, I mean, what good is that?
What was it? I'm trying to think. I'm not going to say it's the same, because TCU was a good team. But didn't they play Alabama in that first round of the playoffs? I can't remember, about 4 years ago or so. Maybe longer than that.
Well, since he's one of the ones that comes to my mind.
Cincy was the one coming to mind, the most recent.
Yeah.
But I thought, it was Cincy.
What about you, Sammy?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's kind of like whenever Cincinnati got in, and I really feel like Cincinnati only got in because UCF was left out after their 2 undefeated seasons, and so then they had to put a team in like that because there was so much noise around let a group of 5 team in, and so they finally let Cincinnati in, and then it wasn't a game. But with this, how it is now, say Georgia gets left out or another team gets left out, but how they're sitting right now in the number 12 spot in the AP, are you going to have 2 national champions again? Because you technically have 4 polls that name a national champion, which is why UCF and Alabama split the 2017 national championship.
No, they did not.
It's in the NCAA
so anyway,
record book.
we're not entertaining that on this show. There is one national champion. It's the one that hosts. It is the one that has the championship in their hands, raised up at the end of the year.
I think I got it. Sammy says that UCF won a national championship.
She tried to slide that in. I was like, no.
Is this true?
It is. It's in the NCAA record book that UCF shares it with Alabama because of the calling matrix poll. There's 4 polls.
That's like the Indianapolis Colts hanging up the banner saying they were AFC South regular season champions. I've never heard of this
poll. What is it?
Calling matrix.
Yeah.
What is that?
I'll bring in my national championship ring for you, Zach, so you can look at it.
Oh, no.
I'll just bring in all 7 or 8 of mine.
So I know they gave out, I just have to forget, they gave out the rings, but do you really, the way the system is set up, that they were actual national championship, even though they were cut out?
The NCAA recognizes them as a shared national champion with Alabama that season.
It's just to make them
How
feel
can they do
good,
that
Blaine.
when they didn't play?
Because there's 4 polls that go into it. So that's what I'm saying. Now with 12 teams, there's bound to be teams that are on the outside of the poll or outside of the playoffs that end up higher up in the poll. So is this another year? Because I think the last time before UCF had the shared one with Alabama, I think it was 2003. So is this the next time that you're going to start seeing that happening?
We don't count Mickey Mouse championships on this.
That's why I stopped the
show.
Harris Interactive poll, whatever it was. I just stopped
it is whoever has the trophy is your national championship. That's it at the end of the day. None of these participation trophies or little banners you hang up on the like the Indianapolis Colts do for winning the AFC South. Like none of that kind of stuff. This is real championship talk here on Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons on 104.5 The Zone.
Stinky, stinky, stinky. Is that what it was like the last time you were at an auto repair shop? Smelly, greasy old rags laying around all over the place. A countertop that you would not dare touch. Another thing that stinks is repair shops that keep your car forever. And they're not honest. And they don't call you back when they say they will. Was that your last experience at a vehicle repair shop? Well, hey, it's Blaine Bishop to tell you about Eurofix. Eurofix takes the stink out of European auto repair. And at Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit and not high-pressure sales tactics. And at Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And you never have to pay dealer pricing. Located all over the state of Tennessee, Eurofix is located in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. So all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can just visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. Always tell Blaine said you.
Hey, it's Zach Lyons here of 104.5 The Zone, and as the resident sports analytics nerd, I know data, and the numbers tell me that the dual power of radio and digital on 104.5 has always delivered for local advertisers. Now's your chance to book your 2025 marketing campaign early with special savings and incentives. Reach out today to your local ad representative or go to 1045thezone.com/epic. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door, 615-737-1045. The radio show that does not care about your Mickey Mouse championships here on 104.5 The Zone.
Yeah, you're referring to Central Florida.
University of Central Florida.
Yeah, they have some championship that Sammy keeps talking about. I don't know about that.
The Polygonal poll told them that they were champions or something.
The Calling Matrix, and you said Central Florida. I was senior producer there for 4 years, working on the branding of UCF and not Central Florida. Can we at least agree on that?
Oh,
yeah.
UCF.
Sorry.
My bad. I show my age there.
Okay. There's something that was in Brian Callahan's presser when he was talking about the Minnesota Vikings.
Today, yeah.
And he was talking about the defense as a whole, what makes that defense so special. He said the players are really good. They handle the scheme. They're complex and they're multiple. They simulate pressure, and then sometimes it's full-out blitzes. They're marrying pressure with coverage and looks, like marrying pressure looks with coverage looks. But what stood out about all that kind of prompted a topic that wasn't on the rundown was that he talked about the veteran players and their ability to be smart. Stephon Gilmore obviously has lost a step athletically. But his ability in this particular scheme and what it asks for him and what he can execute, what every individual player can execute, comes from almost a cerebral level of the game. It's not necessarily you got a bunch of guys out there that are super athletic just being able to do whatever they want to do because they're just stronger and faster than everybody else. They're really a more cerebrally, if I even said that right, built defense. And I wanted to come and ask you something because I think obviously athleticism is important. Your RAS scores, that's your relative athletic score, and all this kind of stuff. Like all these, your 40s and all this stuff tells you a different aspect of how athletic a human being can be. And outside of the Wonderlic and the now mistrusted S2 scores, there's not really anything to measure what's in between the ears. And this is not a knock on Levis. This is more of just a conversation I want to have in general. How can fans, or what can fans try to grasp to, or maybe scouts and media members to measure maybe their players' ability to diagnose quickly, their process ability? Because I'm not talking about a stat, but like what could they see on tape? Because obviously, you made your hay being smarter than everybody else, put it in the work, and I guess it's immeasurable to a certain extent. But what he said, it's like, because so we get.
Remember, I said this before. I said if I had, I'd be a billionaire if I could figure out what that is.
Because Kenneth Murray is a great example, right?
He is.
Because he's super athletic,
off the charts.
But you put him in this Brian Flores defense, he probably would be a backup in this Brian Flores defense because he can't do the mental aspects that's probably required by Brian Flores to get into there.
Or are they just moving the defensive end and say rush the passer?
Rush the passer. So like it's and that's something that we saw on tape but you have 4 years of NFL tape to use that on. College is a little bit harder to diagnose a player with a correct quick trigger because either that was the design of the play or that he actually recognized something. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like I feel like us as fans and media members maybe need to start emphasizing a little bit more the mental part of the game and measure and try to find a way to balance all that out.
Well, I think it's been led by, the NFL because all these super talented, athletic, prowess type players that go in the first round. That doesn't mean they're going to have success. That's why they have a lot of unsuccessful.
Sean Evans would be one that comes to mind.
Right. That happens is because you don't know. Can they process information? And that's not saying I've seen guys that are super book smart and can't process sports smarts quickly enough that were good enough to play sports. So it doesn't have anything to do with that. It's just that how quickly can you process and then react?
Because your GPA really doesn't matter. Because everybody's like, well, Will Levis, has a really high GPA. Right. Well, that doesn't really mean anything. I have a really high GPA. Yeah. Doesn't mean I can go out there and handle the speed of the NFL quarterback, that's required.
Right. So I think it's I think it's got to be some form of a mental test that you take them through athletically. It's not some manual. And to me, it should be like when I see Steph Curry do these different light touching on the wall and all these reactive type things. To me, there should be some form of that in the mental aspect when you're talking about quarterback or any position, center, middle linebacker, safety. The guys who are making the calls, who are translating information, who has to think quicker. What I would do is practice on film actually what I will be doing and what I'm looking at immediately when I break the huddle. And when the call is called, this is what I'm going to do. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to do this. And this is what I'm doing is going to do this. If you slow me down out of all of that, I am pissed because now I'm exposed what I have to do to get my job done. And now you put me in a compromising position. A good example, this is like a average, below average one. Like, okay, if I'm supposed to come down and they run a toss sweep and I have inside gap outside the linebacker, he's shedding, stay outside for contain. And I'm supposed to zoom in and I'm coming full bore down in the alley. I'm going to give that term to it. And then you jump in my alley. You better do it fast so I can then redirect. Because if not, I'm about to run up your back. So that's what I'm talking about, being able to play football smart. I played off of him even though that wasn't my job. So these are the things that guys have to go through and have conversations. That way you can actually know what you're going to do at any given point in time. That's why I said Levis or any quarterback should be able to throw the ball to the flat without even looking. Boom, 1, 2 reads it up, bang, at the ball. I don't even know if they even use the horn. I said, bang, just like that, because I'm so ingrained in my brain that the quarterback has to get it 1, 2, 3, and I hear that horn go off at practice every play that we have.
Do a shot collar for Will Levis instead of
Is that what they do now?
No, I'm just saying do that.
So
he may need that extra.
I don't know
motivation.
if they're practicing or describing, that at practice, but it's not trying to speed you up. It's trying to let you know that most times this is about the amount of time you're going to have to make your decisions. So I don't know how you test. I'm sure there's some mental tests that some guys do, but
I got
tough.
a couple of ideas, and Eric Reed in the F&M Bank chat on YouTube is actually talking about. So we're going to pick that up after the break. So after the break, we'll talk more about maybe what teams can do to kind of go through the muck and the mire and try to figure all this out, because they're doing some stuff, and I don't really think that's the stuff that you need to be doing. So we'll kind of all talk about that right when we come back from the break. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Hello, I'm Ashley Northington, Chair of Moving Forward of Middle Tennessee. The upcoming transit referendum is a game changer for our economy, business leaders, and the entire community. A robust transit system is essential for a thriving economy. With 54 miles of high-capacity transit corridors and 86 miles of new sidewalks, this plan enhances Nashville's connectivity, making it easier for everyone to get where they need to go. This isn't just about transportation. It's about economic empowerment. For business leaders, reliable transit means a more productive workforce. Shorter commutes boost productivity and job satisfaction, helping businesses attract and retain top talent. Improved transit also drives sales and supports local economies by making it easier for customers to reach businesses. The benefits extend to the entire community, connecting people to essential services, education, and recreation. This creates a more inclusive city where everyone can access the resources they need to thrive. Supporting the Choose How You Move transit referendum is an investment in our future. This is about creating a city where businesses can flourish, residents can thrive, and the community enjoys a higher quality of life. Join me in backing this transformative opportunity. Let's build a Nashville where everyone has the opportunity to succeed and to prosper. Visit the link in the caption to learn more about the referendum, how it will support our community, and how you can get involved. Thank you.
Hour 2 of Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Stores. 615-737-1045. You want to get in the conversation. Next segment, we'll have Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports. We'll go around the NFL with him. And I need to tell you guys about Titans Ticket Thursday. Titans fans, tune in this Thursday and listen to your chance to win Titans versus Viking tickets, plus VIP passes to the Titans tailgate with Ron Slay, thanks to Bullseye Event Group. The Titans VIP tailgate includes all you can eat, all you can drink for 2 hours before each home game. For more info, visit 1045thezone.com/contests today. So we were talking before the break. We're talking about what teams need to do, how teams need to adjust in their quarterback evaluation process to try to really grasp the mental aspect and the mental processing of a college quarterback. And I think one of the things that kind of drives me a little nuts now that I've been on the radio with you, talking to you, and all this kind of stuff is like, because there's those clips, right, where Daniel Jones, or is probably a bad example, is going to be Daniel Jones and the Giants, but a quarterback A is in a meeting with a team at the combine, and they ask him to draw up a play and then tell them what they'll do, what will happen on the play, and what he needs to do in certain situations. Well, that's just drawing. That's just answering an easy test on the answer. Then they'll, if they're a team that's really interested in them, they'll give them a couple plays. Then when they come in for their private meetings after the combine at the team facility, they'll ask them to recall the plays. Well, that's just kind of, if you know that that's probably going to happen, you're probably studying and crunching the night before, and just memorizing it. So to me, those things just seem so antiquated, and they're kind of useful, but not really useful. And, we were talking about this on Titans Talk Back on Sunday, and I talked a little bit about it with you on Monday about the VR, virtual reality. And that, to me, seems to be the next logical step in evaluation of quarterbacks, because there's so many programs you can build, maybe existing programs already being used, that you can actually simulate pressure. You can simulate in-game action and see how they react, what they do in these certain situations in real time. It's not perfect because they're not getting hit, obviously, but at least you have kind of a grading, a more, I guess, accurate, not 100%
reactionary. What would they would do in compromising situations when you're in a position where you're desperate, and are you going to do something desperate? Yeah. And I think that kind of what that does, and to see how quickly can you react and respond and make sure you know where you need to go with the football. So I love these
Eric Reed, we may need to partner with Eric Reed in the F&M Bank chat on YouTube on Zone TV, because he's talking about you can simulate crowd noise. Because there's, obviously headphones and speakers attached to the VR headsets. Pressure can also be simulated. A high snap can be simulated. A wide receiver falling down can be simulated. You can assign certain scenarios a percentage and link it to a random number generator in the coding. So you're obviously giving them different scenarios at random. So you can improve what your evaluation process. I mean, I don't think anything's 100% able to replicate what you're going to see in an NFL game, but it's all about mitigating and lessening the risks associated with drafting a quarterback prospect, because we've seen so many times people just draft quarterback prospects out of desperation when maybe they should be like, okay, this isn't the quarterback class for us unless this one scenario just magically happens, and maybe we need to move on, or maybe we need to be looking at the 6th or 7th round or something like that. So, to me, there's ways that you can make a simulation more in depth to really get into the head of a quarterback prospect. And this could really be used for we're talking quarterbacks because Will Levis and his processing issues, but really this could be used and adjusted for any position.
Yeah, no doubt. Especially those positions, as I mentioned earlier, that are in positions of making calls and adjustments. Some positions, it really doesn't really matter. I'm going to say that because I want
maybe center doesn't really matter. I don't know. Or long snapper.
No, center. Yeah, right. Center matters, but maybe long snapper. But I mean, what I was getting at is like an elite player like, let's say Deion Sanders, a cornerback.
Yeah.
I want them to be ultra, athletic. And I don't really need to be, they got to be this smartest guy. Now, if that's part of it, great. But guess what? When I'm evaluating, I need this guy to be able to run, jump, and cover. That's it.
A linebacker would be a good example because of the quarter, to me.
Right. That's what I said. I said center, quarterback, linebacker. It's
that's
always
center
in the
of the field.
Right. Safety. Those guys, I think they have to have somewhat go through these tests. Because they're the people who are communicating on the field, and you want them to be somewhat smarter than everybody else. Because at some point now, you're making changes and adjustments, and sometimes off of instinct, sometimes off of what you're seeing, based off what they're doing. If they're checking and you didn't practice that we're going to check, well, we checked out of what we're doing. I automatically said, well, this is what we're going to do because this is what the coach told me to hang my hat on if something goes wrong. Okay, let's do this, and you immediately think about it where everybody else is just frozen, standing there like what. Right? Are we just going to run what they know what we're doing? I mean, so that's what I'm talking about. And I think a lot of guys, especially now with this generation of players who are much more athletic, is that they don't want to, really not do what the coaches told them to do. So instead of have this freelance about you when you get out there, for the people who are making those adjustments and calls, that you feel comfortable that you can do that. So sometimes some guys just don't even want to do it. This is what they called, this is what we're going to run. And I ran into that my last year, even in Philly. I wanted to make some adjustments, and they were like, no, let's keep it running. In game, this because I'm playing with a whole bunch of veterans, so dude, like, no, we can't do that. I'm like, oh, yeah, we are. They like, no, we can't do that. I said, well, why would we keep doing? They know what we're doing. Because he said the DC need to learn what he doing.
So what was
like, oh,
so
man.
you mentioned about athleticism, not wanting to make mistakes and all that kind of stuff. What was interesting is that Brian Callahan I think one of the big cons of Brian Callahan, at least from the fan base, is like everybody feels like they've tried coaching the aggressiveness out of Will Levis. And I think we got a little bit of insight into that not being really the case. They were trying to get Will Levis to do the mundane better. Like the being able to take the easy out in the flat, like you described it, which should be second nature, which is not second nature for him. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they're trying to get that. Because he talked about it today. He said, because he was asked about, benching and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, you throughout the whole time he's injured, you said, when you're healthy, when Will Levis is healthy, he's our guy. He's our guy the rest of the way, no matter what, when he's healthy. And he stayed on that. And he said the reason he stayed on that is because sometimes when you start sending maybe mixed signals or signals of that you've lost confidence in a quarterback, they get out there and they decide that they make plays to avoid mistakes because they're afraid that they have a short leash. They're going to get yanked. They're going to get pulled. So I don't think, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I don't think there is a coaching the aggressiveness out of Will Levis. I think it's more of aiming the aggressiveness and utilizing it at the right time.
Mm-hmm. No, I would agree with that. Yeah, I don't think they've taken aggressive. I think they're trying to make them say, hey, take the easy throws. There are certain situations and times when you do, take the deep ball or the riskier throw at times. And that's what I said. That's what I think he is managing through. All these different things and trying to still be himself. And because I think that's what they want him to be himself, because some of those times it works out for him and sometimes it doesn't. So if we could just lessen that a little bit, I think we could be okay and we can make this happen. And now you have to find that balancing act. And then you have to be a proven player too. Once you prove that you can do this, then when you make mistakes, it won't be as glorified at that point. That's outside of, your first 2 or 3 years as a starter. So I don't think they're mishandling him or trying to put, handcuffs on him at all.
That seems to be the kind of constant theme throughout this year from the fan base, is that they're trying to.
I do see how they can see that.
I do too.
But I don't think that's what they're doing.
That kind of just was a little bit of insight into how he thinks. And we have heard, because we've also talked about this before too, is that we've heard him say, well, the deep shots are there. Sometimes he's not taking them, or sometimes he's late taking them. So they are drawing up deep shots because, I mean, you obviously have to have deep shots. And the Tennessee Titans still have one of the higher, I mean, they're above average in deep shot rate. So they're doing it. They're putting it in, whether it's Mason Rudolph or Will Levis. It's, they had 4 screens and they had a couple screens, or they had a couple flat passes to the flats as well, right? Like those, but that's involved in every aspect of the NFL and every passing game is to have those screens built in. They're an extension of the run game. It's not like they had 20 screens. They had 4 screens. I mean, then he took passes in the flats if something wasn't there. He went through his reads. And now, does he go through his reads consistently enough? No. But we can't get mad when he does and he takes the flat because something isn't there in front of him or he's about to get sacked. And that's not necessarily a screen. That's not necessarily a reflection of Brian Callahan either, as far as taking the aggressiveness out of him.
Well, I think what happens is everybody saw the first start and they're getting brainwashed and they're thinking that this is how it's going to be every game. I thought the Falcons, they didn't know what to expect. And then once they went man to man, it reminded me of Rich's history is, what was the quarterback's name? It was the Chargers. They went with Peyton Manning. What was his name? Well, when we played them, we did the same thing. We just blitzed. I said, well, we just made his reads easy. He can just pick a guy and throw to it. Well, that's what the Falcons did in that game.
Yeah.
And that made it easy for Levis. Now, when you see all these complex defenses and right before the snap, somebody's moving and all of a sudden they've changed and he's like, where do I go? Now, you already got to know where you're going to go. That has already happened in your brain. If such and such moves, it's no different when I'm on defense and I would say, if they motion, and sometimes they didn't, we're checking to this. I'm already in my head, already said what we're doing. So when it happens, it's a reactive thing.
Yeah.
It's not I got to think about where we're going. If he don't motion, then I'm going to play where I'm at and I'm going to just keep doing what I do. That's what the quarterback is doing on every play. Every single play.
That's the best football talk on radio. I just want to say that out there. I mean, I always learn so much from you. So I just want to throw that out there.
I learned a lot from you.
Sometimes I just feel like I'm sitting here as the audience member, just listening and being like, I got to, take us to break, which I got to do right now. This has been Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons on 104.5 The Zone. And normally we would be having Jordan Dajani on, but we kind of got a little surprised because this normally never happens. Normally they wait for Will Levis to come to the podium after our show. But Will Levis is actually already at the podium. He's talking. We're trying to get that up. But we're going to push Jordan Dajani back a little bit. We'll still go around the NFL with Jordan, but we wanted to get Will Levis at the podium and hear what he has to say and the questions he have. And we're going to miss a little bit of it because we were just kind of surprised. We didn't know he was going to be there. So we're going to miss a little bit.
Huddle, and we wasn't expecting no huddle.
Right, yeah. He caught us. We were slow processing.
Exactly.
He caught us on that. We're actually going to go to Will Levis as soon as we have it up and ready. But Blaine, a little bit of what we were just talking about, I think that we could probably, between us, and maybe a programmer and another and some investors, I think we could build something to really help out what we've been talking about with
better
the
than
processing.
the VR, right?
Something maybe more immersive than a VR. And of course, virtual reality is supposed to be immersive, but something a little bit more immersive. Maybe like a whole room, almost like an escape room that you have to do certain things before you can escape the room and you have a certain amount of time to do it. What do you think?
Oh, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. I just see, to me, it's just be like, you put the person in the room, you have it, you tell them that, okay, to be able to get the key to exit, you have, 10 plays that you have to do in a 2-minute drill or something like that. And if you fail, you can't move on to the next one until you get it right. And you have a little bit amount of time in each play, and you have to complete the play in that amount of time. We're really on to something here.
I think you are, because I hate those kind of tests, too,
someone's going to steal it and start implementing that.
We won't talk about that.
We're done talking about it. Yeah. Another thing, you came in asking me about the difference between passer rating and QBR, and it kind of got me in the mode to kind of look at some stuff and everything, because I think a lot of people just pass off passer rating and QBR as nothing. Passer rating is just completions, attempts, yards, touchdowns, interceptions. That's really all that kind of it goes into a formula and all this kind of stuff, and that's what you get. Quarterback rating is a little bit different. So QBR. So this is a metric that ESPN came up with that they were able to do. And there are 6 steps to building the quarterback rating, that QBR that you see from ESPN. Each quarterback action play, so that's passes, rushes, sacks, scrambles, or penalties that are attributable to the quarterback, is measured in terms of the expected points added, EPA. So I try not to use EPA, I just call it efficiency, but that's the efficiency metrics I often talk about. Then they adjust for the difficulty of each play, so the EPA is adjusted based on the type and depth of a pass and whether the quarterback was pressured. So in that instance, if they were pressured and they could complete the pass, they probably get a little bit of a boost than normal. And if they were pressured and they don't complete the pass, they probably were given a little bit of grace. If there is a completion, the quarterback is credited for the typical number of yards after the catch. Passer rating takes all yards into effect, so only just a typical number of yards after the catch. We're going to pause right there, and we're going to go straight to Will Levis, who's at the podium, talking Tennessee Titans.
Does that give you some confidence moving forward in that connection that you were even trying to start even from the start of training camp?
Yeah, for sure. It was cool to see that development, and it's going to be a bunch of different types of throws that we haven't been able to put on tape yet that we know that we can be really good at, that we're excited to kind of put out there. So those types of throws, they take reps and they take work to get good at, and we're going to continue to work on them. And it was cool to have one of those come to life on Sunday.
Did last year in camp, during training camp, help you any for this, as far as recall goes, and how does that help you maybe?
Yeah, for sure. I remember scrambling in there, for 24 hours before our first practice against Minnesota, and we got out there just trying to prepare for all the different looks. And obviously you're not going to be able to do that jumping into a practice with them that next day. But it was cool to kind of get that, hey, heads up, this is kind of one of the more crazier defenses that you'll see in this league as you start playing in it and understanding the different types of schemes. And Flores has done a great job wherever he's been to take that and make it his own and, try to mess with quarterbacks. So I'm going to try to do the best that I can to not let it mess with me.
Has it helped you, Will, that through everything this year and through your struggles or whatever, but they have constantly said that you're the guy whenever you're healthy. Does that help in terms of your confidence as opposed to maybe some other teams who have kind of flipped back and forth between younger quarterbacks?
For sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I know I'm the guy. I come in here and work and try to earn that job every single day. I know that it can be taken away from you at any point. So try to make sure I keep that in mind and at the same time just have the confidence knowing that regardless of what happens, like I'm this team's quarterback and I got to come to work and be ready to go. So it's great to feel from everybody in the building, and I just got to keep doing my job to, keep earning it.
Where do you feel like last year, when he was with Houston last year, Jonathan Bernard sacked you 2.5 times. Now he's with a very blitz-heavy defense. What's the mental preparation like for you for this game, knowing that they're going to be throwing everything at you, the same thing you go throwing?
Yeah, I can't be thinking about it. Just reacting and knowing when the pressure is kind of getting there. That internal clock's got to speed up and just to get the ball out. So we're going to find ways to get the ball out and help our guys up front in different ways. And just going to be on me to feel it out and know kind of when the opportunities are there to take that second or third hitch or when the ball's got to get spit out a little faster.
Part of the preparation for the answer to that pressure that they're likely to bring is success on first and second downs. Is that part of the emphasis this week?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, even second down, like they get them, get back on track situation, they could very easily jump into some of those third down looks and try to get you frazzled, right there on second down. So we got to be ready for those situations, but hopefully doing a good enough job on those first and second downs to not be put in those situations. So like you said, got to be able to run the ball efficiently, take the throws when we can on first and second downs so that we're not caught with a 14, 15, 23 and 3 drives like last week. So can't play football that way. Got to keep it manageable on third down.
So blitz happy as the Vikings can be sometimes, does that create potential for burn plays if you can execute correctly to burn them for a big play?
No, everyone's going to find their ways to beat zero however they can. The danger with them is that you don't know when it's going to be zero. You don't know when they're going to drop out of it or when it's actually going to come. So we're going to try to find ways to have answers both ways. In different ways. So like you said, there might be certain types of throws behind the line of scrimmage, down the field, what have you, but we're going to try to feel out throughout the week, what we feel like are our best answers, and when we are facing those situations, we can hit them in the mouth.
Well, what did you think was going your confidence? Is that did it help looking back to get a few weeks to kind of reset, beyond what you were able to get physically out of the ground?
Yeah, no, I feel good. Able to reset physically and mentally was good for me, I felt like, and didn't feel like I ever lost my confidence, but I definitely built it throughout those weeks. So I was able to take time to improve on certain things in my game off the field, and then also obviously get healthy. So coming back on the field, not limited in how I was throwing the ball, that got me a lot of confidence back. And when I was able to get that ability to throw the ball back, I felt like got my swagger back a little bit and felt better out there.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
That was Will Levis over at the podium, and we're going to go straight to Jordan Dajani on the line, go around the NFL.
Yeah. We got Jordan?
Got Jordan here from CBS Sports. Jordan, sorry that we had to bump you a little bit because of Will Levis, but...
So what did you think about the interview? Let's ask about that before we get into the NFL. What did you think about Will Levis? Thanks for coming on and delaying that.
Hopefully I'll be more entertaining than Will Levis is at the podium. But, yeah, I'll be flexible for you guys. I thought it was a good question about the pressure that the Vikings like to bring, because I think that this is going to be a really fascinating test for Will Levis. I mean, I think some of the criticisms surrounding his play have been centered around, how he processes the game post-snap. Mm-hmm. And the Vikings, I mean, they give you so many different pressure looks, simulated pressures. You're not going to see the same thing in a row on third downs. So it's going to be a really good test for Will Levis in terms of how he's going to operate with that internal clock, with that progression, how he's going to operate on the fly, things like that.
So Russell Wilson has a 58.8% completion percentage, but the Steelers just beat the Washington Commanders in a thrilling game, one of the better games. So, I mean, is it time to put in the conversation that Steelers could be Super Bowl contenders? I mean, they have the best coach.
Oh.
I mean, you could argue Andy Reid is the best coach in the NFL. I think Mike Tomlin is a close second. But they have the best coach in the NFL, one of the better coaches in the NFL, and it seems like this could be a Super Bowl contending team.
No.
Yeah, I mean, good question, because with the Steelers, we don't care about their wins over the Jets or the Giants, but to go into Washington and defeat the Commanders and Jaden Daniels was certainly eyebrow-raising for me. Russell Wilson's averaging 8.7 yards per attempt this season. That's actually a career high, so he's throwing up those moon balls. You could make the argument that he's unlocked George Pickens as well, but as you mentioned, a career low completion percentage as well. So I actually went to our Sportsline data scientist, Stephen O., who puts together all these simulations to look at the real chances that the Steelers may have to actually hoist the Lombardi in New Orleans later this year. And according to his simulations, there are plenty of teams that have better chances to win the Super Bowl than the Pittsburgh Steelers. He puts their chances at 3.6% to win it all. And you have to understand why. I mean, they have a pretty tough remaining schedule. The simulations say they're expected to go around 500 to end the season. But here's the deal. Russell Wilson's brought some consistency to the offensive side of the ball. We understand that they have one of the best defenses in the NFL as well. I guess Mike Williams is going to play a good role in this offense. He's already responsible for one of their victories. We'll see what happens with Preston Smith being a rotational pass rusher who offers some flexibility as well. So the Steelers are certainly a team to watch, but I don't know how many people are picking them over teams like the Baltimore Ravens or the Kansas City Chiefs or the Buffalo Bills in the AFC.
You know, switching to Brian Flores, you know, obviously fantastic defensive coordinator that is working and just has all the right pieces in all the right places. They're blitz happy. They're simulating pressures. They're doing everything they can to keep their team relevant. But since coming out of the bye, Sam Darnold has started becoming a more average quarterback, despite the elite surroundings that he really has. They are going to get TJ Hawkinson back. But me and Blaine were kind of talking about a quarterback that gives you hope that you can win the Super Bowl. And is Sam Darnold really that quarterback for the Minnesota that really gives you the hope that this team can go to the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold at quarterback? Or is it just really because that defense is that dang good that this could be a defense that carries them into the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I don't think his play has inspired much confidence over the past few weeks. I mean, the Vikings have played 4 games after their bye. They're 2-2, and I feel like they've looked really bad over the last 3, going back to that game against the Jaguars. I mean, Jacksonville has one of the worst defenses in the NFL and arguably the worst secondary in the NFL, and Sam Darnold threw multiple picks against that defense. I think he was the first Vikings quarterback to have 0 passing touchdowns and 3 picks in a win since Tavares Jackson in 2007. So I don't think that Sam Darnold is someone where I look at and say, you know, even if he plays consistent and he hits the open receivers and he takes care of the ball, I still don't know if the Vikings have enough firepower to make it to the Super Bowl and be a legitimate contender. When you look at what he has around him with Aaron Jones and Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, those are some really elite weapons, and we already talked about the defense as well. But you need just a little bit more from your quarterback if you want to be a contender, in my opinion.
We're on with Jordan Dajani. We're going around the NFL with him, and he covers the NFL for CBS Sports.
Well, JD, man, you were talking about the coaches. Well, at least this year, who do you have? Let's just say top 2 as far as coach of the year right now at this point in the season.
Yeah, I think Kevin O'Connell was up there until recently. But, I mean, you're going to look at some of the coaches who have just been having fantastic seasons in terms of their record. One guy who might be a sleeper, in my opinion, could be Sean McDermott. Because you know what we talked about, this Bills coaching staff, this Bills team was maybe poised to take a step backwards with all the pieces they lost on both sides of the ball. But then you have Josh Allen playing maybe the most efficient season of his young career, and then the defense has been playing well as well. So we expected this AFC East division to be incredibly competitive with the Miami Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. But the Bills have been the dominant team in that division. They're going to win the AFC East. So I think Sean McDermott might be a sleeper to win that award.
Well, I know the Bears now have let go of Waldron there as their OC. And they can't let go of Caleb Williams. But kind of take us through what Caleb Williams has looked like over the last 3 or 4 weeks and why they kind of down on him, and even considering benching him for a period of time, I think.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I'm, of course, speculating here, but I do think some reporters have been dropping some pieces where Caleb Williams might be due for a soft reset. And I feel comfortable saying that because you look at their remaining schedule this year. It is undoubtedly the toughest remaining schedule in the NFL. I actually just watched that Patriots film before I hopped on the phone with you guys. And Caleb Williams, the prospect coming out of USC, right? He was this guy who was great at being elusive in the pocket, keeping his eyes downfield, making those off-platform throws. And we're not seeing that kind of confident player recently with the Chicago Bears. Now, I do think that he is responsible for a decent percentage of the blame. Watching that game against the Patriots, I think he held onto the ball a lot longer than he should have. He missed some easy throws as well. But to go along with that, his offensive line has let him down in several spots, especially the interior guys, that offensive guard and center. The wide receivers have been responsible for some drops. I think the running backs have struggled to pick up the extra blitzer as well. When you send 2 extra guys on the Bears and Caleb Williams, it's almost a death sentence for this offense. So that's a big reason that Shane Waldron was let go, because I think that this offense as a whole has not looked good. They're not living up to those expectations with all those playmakers Caleb Williams has around him. But again, there's no doubt that Caleb Williams has disappointed thus far, and hopefully Thomas Brown, who is the interim offensive coordinator, by the way, a guy who interviewed with the Tennessee Titans for their head coaching job this past offseason, he's someone who's looking to get into the head of Caleb Williams and craft a game plan where he can look comfortable operating as the leader on this offense.
Is he part of the Shanahan tree or McVay or what's it?
McVay?
McVay. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's the same guy. Okay, you're right. One more question.
He was the guy that took over last year at Carolina play calling duty, and that ended in disaster.
Oh, did it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. Well, we hope that don't happen there. So anyway, lastly, a local kid here, Tyrell Dotson, he went to Centennial, and then he went to, I think, A&M, Texas A&M, and now he with the Seahawks, and they put him on waivers. He got picked up, but he was starting there. This is his first time he actually was he was the starting guy going into the season. And had you ever seen anything like that here recently of a starter getting just waived and putting someone else? I know they traded for a linebacker as well here from the Titans, but what was the issue there? I mean, because he was performing looking at his numbers anyway.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that because, to your point, it's a little bit confusing. I mean, this is a 26-year-old kid who's been starting on defense. I don't know if there was a problem in the locker room. I don't know if there was an issue with the schematics in terms of the defense they wanted to run moving forward. But I will tell you this. I was kind of a bit excited when he was picked up by the Miami Dolphins because that's a defense who has been playing really good as of late, just going back to their primetime win over the Los Angeles Rams. So I feel like Anthony Weaver in Miami, he wants to utilize some athleticism from his linebackers. Maybe Tyrell Dotson is someone who fits that mold. But, hey, I'll tell you, I don't really have any answers for that because it was something that surprised me as well.
There you have it, Jordan Dajani.
Going back to the Bears just real quick, what do you make of these reports of players going to Matt Eberflus and asking him to sit Williams in favor of Tyson Bagent?
Yeah.
And, I mean, is that just maybe a one player's opinion or anything? Because that seems crazy to me.
Yeah, that's...
Right. I don't know how much stock I'm putting into those. In fact, I was watching NFL Network last night, and I think it was Tom Pelissero talked about how even if those reports are not real, they could become real very soon. And you have to keep the morale of the locker room in mind when there's a team that's struggling, and then they have to go through this absurd schedule that the Bears have to play to round out the year. And that's why I mentioned earlier that a soft reset for Caleb Williams might be something that happens. But Thomas Brown is going to get a chance to try to get this young quarterback on track. But, yeah, at face value, guys, it's something that is hard for me to believe, especially when I went back and watched that Patriots film. That's not when I came away saying, wow, Caleb Williams is the problem. He needs to sit. This is why the Bears are a bad football team right now. That was not my main takeaway when I watched their loss against New England. But the bottom line is that the offense is underperforming. They've been arguably the worst offense in the NFL over the past month, and that starts with the quarterback.
Yeah, it's real interesting because this is a team with a head coach that was on the hot seat, obviously on the hot seat even before the season started, and basically after last season ended, and they end up drafting a rookie quarterback and have already gotten rid of an offensive coordinator, now bringing in another unproven offensive coordinator in Thomas Brown, who I do like Thomas Brown's coaching history, but I like him more as a CEO head coach and kind of guy than I do a coordinator. So, this seems like they're just setting up Caleb Williams to fail from the outset, because if you're going to draft a rookie quarterback, it feels like your head coach should not be on the hot seat.
Yeah, Yes, you're 100% right. And this is something I actually wrote about a lot on CBSSports.com during the offseason. Not to dog the Bears too much, but when we're talking about teams that were set up to disappoint, it was the Chicago Bears. Remember, I talked to Blaine about this. Their win total was set at 9 wins this season. It was just absolutely ridiculous. And again, I thought that they didn't exactly have the right pieces in place. My least favorite part about my job is saying that this player or this coach is not, set up for expectations. And that's what I saw with the Chicago Bears. So, hey, I'll call my shot right now. What if Cliff Kingsbury ends up as the head coach for the Chicago Bears and reunited with Caleb Williams next year?
That'd be interesting, and that's something that's going to be on top of my mind as well. Really appreciate it. Jordan, sorry that we had to push you a little bit for Will Levis, but when QB1 talks, we got to listen.
Yeah.
No problem, guys. Thank you. Appreciate
it. That was Jordan Dajani of
JD.
CBS Sports. He took us around the NFL for some quick updates on headlines from other teams. When we come back, we're going to close it up kind of talking about this situation with the Chicago Bears and the philosophy for considering a young quarterback. This has been covered too with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, this is Blaine Bishop. I want to know if you have heard about peptides. And peptides are shaking up the fitness world. And there are naturally occurring aminos in our bodies. So as we age, they start to decline. And at some point, you may need to be supplemented. Yes, this is why our workouts can stop being productive at the gym. So maybe you feel like you've hit a wall, or perhaps you feel tired all the time. You may be struggling to stay awake in the evenings when you get home from work. If you have the thought that this is just a normal part of aging, it doesn't have to be that way. Peptides are proven to increase muscle and performance, burn fat, and help with recovery between workouts and more. Peptides can even help with motivation and mental clarity. These are safe, naturally occurring aminos and not pharmaceuticals, a natural and holistic way to get your body back to peak performance. Plus, Edge Peptide Therapy has the most comprehensive blood panel around. So when you go to Edge, you will know exactly what is going on inside of your body and what it needs to do to get back to peak performance, so you feel better from the inside out. So go to edgepeptide.com. Yes, that's edgepeptide.com, or you can just give them a call at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 1045 The Zone, 615-737-1045. You want to get on the conversation. We're powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. And, of course, we have the F&M Bank chat on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. So we're going to talk. We're going to pause our QBR talk, and we're going to put that on tomorrow because this conversation around the Bears, and I think it's not really, I'm not here to harp on the Bears. It's more about the philosophy when you are going to be drafting a young quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So last year they go in with Matt Eberflus still as their head coach. And they know, Matt Eberflus and obviously the ownership and GM, they kind of know that they're going to be drafting a quarterback, right? They make trades, they get up there, they do all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They end up trading Fields and all this stuff, right? So my question is if you're a team that has a chance to draft what is considered one of the better, or I guess let me put it this way, the most gifted, one of the most gifted because he's athletic, he can make plays out of structure, he can make all the throws you need, quarterbacks, and you have a coach on the hot seat, and specifically a defensive head coach on the hot seat. Why are you keeping that coach around when you know he's on the hot seat? And why not? Because here's the thing. He's already shuffled through offensive coordinators, but even if Shane Waldron was really good, he's likely to get a head coaching job because that's what offensive coordinators usually happen, right? That's the big knock, was that defensive head coaches are always going to rotate offensive coordinators because they're always going to be getting jobs. We just literally talked about Cliff Kingsbury getting a job at the Bears if they fire Matt Eberflus, and then Dan Quinn's going to have to find another offensive coordinator. And is that guy going to be able to implement and keep the momentum going with Jaden Daniels like Cliff Kingsbury has built? It's just, I don't understand really the thought process other than, hey, we need to draft a quarterback. You still had Justin Fields under contract. It seems like to me maybe, I don't know. I don't know what you do in that situation, but it seems like keeping Matt Eberflus after the last year that they had, keeping Matt Eberflus to draft a quarterback just didn't seem like a good recipe.
Well, I'm going to take you through the timeline. Maybe you guys get some clarity because I'm not sure what I would do in the situation, but that the staff that's there now didn't draft Justin Fields, even the GM.
Yeah.
So then when they decided, okay, we don't want to give him his fifth-year option, even though he was developing into a passer the last 6-8 weeks, he shown that he was more than just a runner by far, even with the suspect offensive line. And so they decided to go in a different route. So then does that mean that their clock started this year with Caleb Williams?
Yeah.
Because now this is the quarterback that they chose, GM from head coach down. Right. So then if he doesn't like what's going on, you're in a big market. Somebody's going to be the fall guy.
Yeah.
And so to me, they can't be Caleb Williams, even if he's playing horrific. So they went and let the offensive coordinator go. And I just don't know if that's the recipe for your answer, because you're not helping your quarterback by getting rid of the OC. And then you're bringing in a whole new OC who may be potentially gone in another year if he does so well. All of a sudden, then he's going to be in the interview and process with other teams. But you got to take that risk. So now they're going to, now.
Or does he do so well that maybe you hire him as your head coach instead of Matt Eberflus? And we've seen teams do that, and then that fails as well.
Yeah. Yeah, with the interim guy, you said didn't have a lot of success at Carolina. What's his name?
Thomas Brown.
Thomas Brown, right. Yeah.
And Thomas Brown has a really good resume, really smart guy, but I think he's one of those guys that he's not a good I would say that he's more, Dan Campbell, Mike Vrabel-esque than he is McVay and Kyle Shanahan-esque, if that makes sense. He's more of a CEO kind of head coach to me, is the read. And there are places for that to work. We've seen it work with Mike Vrabel for a short period of time. We've seen it work with Dan Campbell. Like, those guys have a place in the NFL. That's why I've always been high on him. He's just a different kind of head coach to me than your play calling, OC, offensive quarterback guru kind of genius. So it'll just be very interesting to see how they handle that situation and what he can do with the opportunity.
They're in a tough spot.
They're in a tough spot. And he himself, Thomas Brown, is in a tough spot because then he's going to have two offensive coordinator positions with two rookie quarterbacks. And if he fails, he may never get that
his
head
shot.
coaching job.
And
that's unfair, but that's the way the NFL works, right?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, we're going to go to the phones real quick, 615-737-1045. You want to get in. Scotty in Gallatin wants to talk about the Volunteers versus the Georgia Bulldogs. Scotty, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, guys. We got Titans Ball Network, and we're Chicago. Tell me something good about Tennessee beating Georgia.
Hey, that would be great. I mean, that would be awesome if they beat Georgia. Tennessee, and we're going to get into the Tennessee-Georgia matchup tomorrow when that's when we usually do it for the previews and stuff. But if Tennessee beats Georgia, I mean, they pretty much solidify, unless they go on a 2-game losing streak or something crazy, they pretty much solidify that they're going to be in the college football playoffs.
At Georgia, too.
And they can still be in if they lose to Georgia, but it's just a much tougher road. And that's why it's not a true elimination game for UT. Maybe Georgia it is, but not really for UT. And that's why really University of Tennessee has got to, they got to win this game. But that's a big ask right now with that momentum coming in. But I do think that if they win this game, they're not the most dangerous team in the college football playoffs, but they're a team that can at least get out of that first round. And we'll see and give the second round team a little bit of trouble too.
Boy wonder, I want you to think about this. Where was Georgia ranked before they lost?
Oh, my God.
3?
I'd have to go back and look. Like 3, 4, 4 or 5? Maybe 3. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look.
Where did they drop to?
They dropped all the way down to well, it depends on which poll you're looking at. But we're going to they're out of the playoff brackets. They're the first team out of the playoff
and
bracket.
They have 2 losses, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, if Tennessee lost, what do you think will happen to them? That's why I keep saying this is a playoff caliber type game.
It definitely is, for sure. It definitely is that.
Okay,
I'm just saying it's not an elimination game for them. It's definitely playoff caliber.
Well,
but see that Vandy win now at the end of the year is much more important because they're also ranked. If they get it, if they win, is what I'm saying. Usually, if you beat Vandy at the end of the year and you're already out of the college football playoffs, it's not a resume builder, right?
No doubt.
Now, Vandy is a potential resume builder.
Are they?
Yeah. Vandy's still good.
They're still good, but they're not ranked.
That's a quality win.
Yeah, it
is what I'm saying. It used to be Vandy's not a quality win. Now it's a quality win.
Well, it's also be a quality win to you Bama fans.
Yeah, well, we need it. We're going to go to Carter real quick to wrap up the show. Carter, you want to talk about L'Jarius Sneed, and you're on with Blaine and Zach.
I just want to talk about how L'Jarius Sneed didn't miss any games with the Chiefs, but he signs this big old contract, and he wants to miss 4 games in a row.
I don't think anybody wants it.
I don't think he wanted that either. I think it's, I don't know, man. He must have had a serious quad injury.
Well, you talked about it, Blaine, and just real quick, because you said that if he gets hit in the right spot, it can knot up, and it can calcify, right?
It can turn into a big knot and a bruise.
And it's on the quad.
And you can't flex your muscle.
And there may be a strain involved or something like that. And there's quad, and he was talking in the locker room today, and he's not really participating in any physical activities. He's just kind of coaching up the youngins and, taking notes, I guess, and participating in class. But yeah, I mean that injury can be a lot more serious than what people think. Because people think just, he got hit in the quad and it's a bruise. So I just take the people real quick and then we'll get out of here.
Especially with the vertical speed that you got to have, and that could slow you down.
Yeah.
And, man, it could be tough. But I'm hoping he'll be sooner or later. But, man, if you listen to his interview in the locker room, it didn't sound like he was going to be back anytime soon.
We're going to talk about that interview in the locker room and kind of like maybe go on, investigate the body language. Because I don't think he wanted to miss the games, but because the injuries happen in the NFL. But this is a really weird situation, and he's not on IR. So there's some things there that signal little alarms are going off. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll talk about the Tennessee Volunteers Georgia matchup and all that kind of stuff. We got a loaded show tomorrow. 3HL's up next. They're at the Twin Peaks in Madison. So if you're out in that area, go see them. But in the meantime,
and in between time,
peace.